Hello, everyone. Welcome on back to Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. It's the #1 tennis betting podcast and YouTube show with your hometown sportsbook. Bet with us. I'm Nigel Seeley, and at business end, this is where we do the business. Second week of the major, and the man who always does the business is Mr. Sean Calvert. Sean Calvert, our senior ATP handicapper for Because We Win. How are you, son? I know you've looked warmed up. You must have been at football.
Got about 10 layers on, yeah.
You got must have been at the football tournament with the boy or something like that.
No, cancelled. Training was cancelled yesterday because of a frozen pitch. I thought they were going to play today actually because it's not cold here today. Well, it's cold, but it's not freezing. But apparently the pitch hasn't thawed out sufficiently enough for them to be able to play. So yeah, I could sort of see it coming. So I sneakily arranged a quick play date so Logan won't be bored. He's terrible when he's bored. He's the worst. So you got to kind of keep him. It's like a dog. You have to kind of keep him exercised. Otherwise, it doesn't end well for you generally. But yeah, frozen pitches yesterday and today. And as soon as I finish this show, I'll be taking him to basketball, which obviously can't be called off. So yeah.
Are you up against the local rivals today that we bet him minus 7.5 points? Sorry?
It's just practice. I've switched teams with him now. He was at Southend, but because he wasn't really able to play a lot of those sessions because it clashed with his football. So I've moved him to Rayleigh, who are like the champions.
They were the team that you mentioned. They were your local rivals.
He plays for them now. No, it's not matches though.
You took the dollar.
It's not matches. It's just training. And they only play one match at the end of the term.
The dollar.
Oh, there was no dollar offered.
Well, can I tell you a quick story here? My son Harry, right, was a very good. It was good. You've met Harry, obviously.
Yes.
He was a pretty decent football player when he was a young lad. He was a pretty. And I was the
when
manager.
He was young. He's only 18.
Yeah, but when he was like Lakers age, like 10, when they get to 16 and interested in women and girls and going out and with their mates, and at 19, suddenly football's not important to him.
Okay.
So, but when he was a very young lad, he was a good player, and he played in the football team. And this guy rang me up and said, "I wanted your son to play for me." He said he could play a higher level, and I said, "Well, he's my boy. I don't want to manage the football team without my son in him. Why would I want to do that?" And he said, "Listen, we've got the best kits. We get him track suits. We give it." And he was trying to bribe me on the phone so that my 9-year-old boy would leave his own dad's football team and go and play for another football team. He didn't. He stayed. And
I was about to say, did he take the money?
No, he regretted that decision. We weren't like you, Cal, but we stayed with the team. You know, he was getting beat 6-0, but he learned an experience.
This is not a sporting decision for me. This is a time management decision. So there we are. It's like equidistant anyway. For me to get to Rayleigh, for me to get to Southend, it's the same amount of time, so it doesn't really make any difference.
Well, look out for him. NBA, Lagan Calvert could be.
I don't think he's going to the NBA.
It could be a big name in the future. I've seen a couple of videos. I think you showed me one of his rugby videos. He was unbelievable.
He was good at rugby. Yeah,
it was incredible, amazing. So that sporting talent must come from the mother's side, surely.
You're joking. She's dreadful. I mean, let's not go into
okay, we'll leave that.
Just say that she can't play sport to save her life. Let's just say that.
We'll leave that there. Okay, let's move on to the Australian Open. And we at the business end, like I said, we have four fourth round matches. The last 16 matches to be completed to get the quarterfinal lineup. We know 4 players through to the quarterfinals, and we're actually going to touch on those quarterfinals as well on this show here, because last time we're going to speak about it before those matches start. So it's a good time to speak about tonight's 4th round matches and the 2 quarterfinals for Tuesday morning. Let's have a look at the outright market before we do anything. Novak Djokovic, he came through a couple of little rocky roads. We were worried about his injury, but last night against Adrian Mannarino, 2 bagels and a very, very routine win. But he played an opponent that must have been absolutely exhausted. So we look at that in Djokovic form, but also the fact that he took on an opponent that was it must have been knackered. So we'll talk about that analysis of him there. Alcaraz is plus 260. Jannik Sinner still not to drop a set. It's $4. Medvedev, our pick. It's been impressive in the last 2 rounds after some impressive performances. He's 8-1. Zverev come through a battle against Alex de Minaur, 20-1. He's through to the quarterfinals. Rublev come through the battle. He's 20-1. Zverev is 20-1 as well. Hurkacz is 50. Taylor Fritz, Djokovic leading the American charge, is 50-1. Cam Norrie, unbelievable performance from him, beating Casper Ruud. No, none of myself or Sean saw that coming. He's 151. Cazaux 250, Kecmanovic 300, and Borges 300. Now, there is, in that outright market, 12 men remain, Sean. we would probably expect 7 or 8 of them to be in there, but there's some names at the bottom that have really shot to get through to this part of the draw, isn't there? Have you been impressed with their form before we move on to the main contenders?
Who are we talking about? Borges and
Borges,
Cazaux.
Cazaux, Norrie, for example. What a tremendous win that was. I mean, we wouldn't have expected any of them 4 to be in the last 12 of the Australian Open.
I think, well, Norrie maybe. I think Norrie was a little bit lucky, to be honest. I'll talk about that later. I mean, Ruud could have won that 3-0. He had so many chances. I think he went 1 from 10 on break points for Casper Ruud. You know, if he'd have won that first set, or certainly the second set, he certainly had chances in the third. He's a break up in the third as well. He could have won it. Certainly could have won it 3-1. Casper Ruud didn't take his chances. I'll talk about Norrie in a bit. He's made a few changes to his game by the look of it in the off season. Cazaux we're going to talk about in a minute as well. Obviously surprised that not surprised that he's doing well, but I'm surprised that he's got to the second week of a major. And I'm shocked, and I don't get shocked very often, as you know. I'm shocked that Nuno Borges is in the second round of a major. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute. There's no way I would have if someone had said to me, right, Borges is going to be potentially, playing for a place in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, I would have just said no. So very surprised at those two, particularly Borges.
And his form has been exceptional. I mean, he didn't drop a set until he played Dimitrov the other day. He hasn't just been winning. He's been winning with relatively ease. So the draw's been probably very kind for him, but he's there by merit. So let's have a look at that. Before we move on to the matches, Novak Djokovic, I mean, we're back to exactly the same price as we were at the start. He was even money at the beginning. He's now through to the last 16, last 12 of the tournament. He's even money. What do you think of his chances? I mean, everyone's going to be looking at Djokovic and thinking, well, he's just brilliant against Mannarino. He's peaking just at the right time as he does in every slam. And there'll be a lot of people watching this show just think, well, he's won it 10 times before. Let's just have 11. Is it 11 times before?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I lose 10 count. 11 times.
I can't remember. But the thing is, we might just bet him at even money. He's just going to collect in in a week's time.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, the match that you wanted, and you might be watching from behind the sofa, is looking likely to take place, isn't it? Sinner against Djokovic, and you might be able to get a better price on Djokovic just to win that match against Sinner in play than you getting to win the tournament. If Sinner starts really well, say he goes a set and a break up or something like that, then maybe that's the time to bet Novak Djokovic. I mean, it looks very much like the finalist from the top half is going to be either Djokovic or Sinner. Probably Djokovic, but it could be Sinner. Sinner will be pretty much delighted, I would say, to have got through to this stage and conserved as much energy as he possibly could. He has had a pretty straightforward draw, but he'd have been delighted to get past Kecmanovic in straight sets. And now he's facing a fatigued Rublev as well. Even a fully fit Rublev, you would favour Sinner. So it looks to me like Djokovic's only hurdle really is going to be Jannik Sinner as far as pre-final is concerned. Yeah,
I mean, I looked at. I mean, if anyone hasn't watched this podcast or the last couple of days or the last couple of episodes we've done, I bet Jannik Sinner at the end of last year at 16-1 to win it, and I've actually taken on Novak Djokovic. Someone's actually bet Novak Djokovic to win the tournament with me at plus 120. So that match is a big swing for me if it gets to that eventuality. So that's why Sean alluded to touch on their bases there. So it's a big match for me. I was looking at, I think we got to the point now, both of my picks, I've actually bet Sinner, I've bet Medvedev, obviously, on your selection, I bet Shelton on your selection, and I bet Corey Goff in the women's. And I think both of my picks now are really dependent on the weather. I think the weather is huge. And before I spoke to you today, I looked at the weather here, and I'm getting more optimism about the weather. The weather's indifferent, and it's going to be some cold days. Saturday's going to be cold. Friday's going to be cold. Today is going to be very cold, and the schedule could work out that it could help Sinner.
Well, Tuesday and Wednesday are hot. It depends when he plays.
That's the thing. I'm looking at. I was thinking, well, if I was trying to work it out, they'd probably play Wednesday. It'd be a night match, wouldn't it? Surely. Possibly.
They'd probably put Djokovic on at night, I would have thought. But
yeah.
I don't know. I would imagine it's Tuesday. It's going to be Tuesday, isn't it? It's going to be 29 degrees on Tuesday.
If Djokovic played, I'm on about when Djokovic played Sinner.
Oh right, yeah.
I'm sort of just saying. I'm just admitting that I'm just saying that Sinner's going to get through. I'm saying Djokovic's going to through. I think the schedule there will really help me in that matchup.
Right. Okay. In that particular match, which will probably take place on the Thursday, then, right?
Yes.
I think it's set to be cooler then. The Tuesday
Yeah.
and Wednesday look like they're going to be by far the hottest days. I think Thursday will be fine as far as you're
Yeah, so
concerned.
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that if we can get to that dream semi-final, although I don't want it to be a dream semi-final, I want Novak Djokovic being on, but if we get that opportunity, then I think that will help Sinner with the cooler conditions as it goes on in the week. So
You don't fancy Taylor Fritz to knock him out then?
no, I don't. No. I think I come
Fair
on to
enough.
that match.
I can't blame you.
I'll come on to that match in a minute. I do think there may be a couple of angles in it, but I don't think he's got the game to beat Novak Djokovic. And as he's seen in the last 6 matches they played, that he has got absolutely 8 matches they played, he hasn't got the game to beat him.
No.
But the conditions, as you say, tonight's cool, isn't it? A bit cool today. It's going to be the conditions going to be a little bit cooler.
Monday, yeah, the sort of 19 degrees, which is pretty cool by Melbourne standards. It's about as cool as it's going to get. You would have thought this time of year. Then another big 10-degree swing to the Tuesday when it's going to be 29 and 33 on Wednesdays. But as far as this show is concerned, Monday, cool, 19, 20, that's fine.
Yeah. Let's move on to the matches then. No further ado. Let's start with the match that starts at midnight. These are matches this evening, so Eastern time in across in the States. So these will be either Sunday night or early hours of Monday morning. This one's a midnight match. It's Zverev against Cam Norrie. Zverev is the favourite, -360. Just going around the draw, the number 60, just going around the draw there, just doing his business. He's 7-1 for the year. He's just under the radar, I think, Zverev here at 20-1 to win the tournament. He's got quite a convincing record against Cam Norrie. They've met 6 times before. He leads 4-2. The last time they met was last year in Vienna, as Zverev won very, very easy, 6-2, 6-4. And in fact, he's won his last 4 meetings, the 2 early matches back in 2013 and 14 in futures and challengers. Norrie won, but on the main tour, it's been Zverev winning and winning well. He hasn't dropped a set. He's -360, as I said, +270 for Norrie. The spread here is 4.5. Zverev giving up 4.5 is -136. Norrie +106, receiving the 4.5. And the total is 38.5, over -114, under -112. There's very heavy favourites in action in all these 6 matches. But Zverev, I think, here should have the beating of Norrie pretty easily.
You think? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I do. Interesting.
Sure.
I think he should beat him easy.
He has got a great record against left-handers, Zverev. He's won 77% of his career main level matches against lefties, and his last 13 in a row, compared to 68% against right-handers. So excellent record. But Norrie showed a more aggressive approach against Casper Ruud. Come into the net, you don't see him doing that very often. Now he's probably had a word with himself and thought, well, this approach isn't going to get me what I want, so I'm going to start playing more aggressively. I think that perhaps surprised, whether that was just a one-off maybe against Ruud, because he had to do something different against Ruud, didn't he? Because his matchup was appalling. So, but I would think it would serve him well to be attacking here as well. It hasn't served him well to play his normal game against Zverev, has it? As far as the head-to-head's concerned, it's, as you said, it's pretty much in favour of Alexander Zverev. But he's relied a lot on his first serve. 83% first serve points won. Zverev against Norrie, and only 47% on his second ball. So he's got to serve well. If he doesn't serve well, gets into a lot of rallies, then Norrie's got the chance here. Norrie's actually won 52% of the second serve points in the matchup, so he's had slightly the better of it from the back of the court, and he has held serve 84% of the time. So with this more aggressive approach that he's seems to be utilising at the minute, as he did against Casper Ruud, I think he might go better than people think. It's easy to sometimes just to look at the head-to-head, isn't it, and go, oh, he's won, the last 4 or 5 in a row. Sometimes you have to break it down a bit further and then think, well, is the guy who hasn't had the best of it, is he going to change it? If so, how is he going to change it? Is he capable of changing it? Sometimes players just haven't got what it takes to change a certain matchup. That could be the case here with Norrie. I don't know, but there were some quite positive signs, against Casper Ruud. He'll have taken a lot of confidence from that win. And it's not like Zverev's been playing great. He could have lost against, was it Lucas Klein, I think he played, wasn't it? Wasn't great against Kopfer. Really wasn't good at all against Klein, who attacked him. He'll probably win it, Zverev, but I most certainly won't be backing him at the price that he is. I think over 38.5 is potentially the way to go here at 1.88. That's a -114 chance of Bet Rivers.
Yeah, the reason I thought he may be able, I thought that I wanted to lean towards Zverev is I just think Norrie obviously had that injury concern coming into it. He hasn't shown any injury concern yet. He did change it up against Ruud, but I just think I thought Zverev could have the power to blow him away, but obviously the only thing that will hinder that is the cooler conditions, which I thought, well, that might help Norrie in terms of. I can see where your argument is. So I slightly disagree. I think Zverev will win fairly comfortably. There's 44 different markets on Bet Rivers. So good job. This is an official pick. We've got Ling. Sean thinks the over 38.5. I would expect Zverev to win fairly comfortably. I was looking at Zverev -4.5, but it is -136. It's very, very low. So a difference of opinion on the first match.
He's also got that cloud hanging over him as well, hasn't he, Zverev? Whether that will help him or hinder him, you know, he's doing court in a few months, isn't he? It probably won't make any difference, but just generally, I'd be scared about backing Zverev at minus money. It doesn't sit well with me, really, unless it's a really supreme matchup for him.
I can 100% assure you that I won't be having a bet on this match. But for the sake of conversation,
you, really.
For the sake of the conversation, I thought my lean would be towards Zverev to win rather comfortably, because I think Norrie may have a little bit of a upsurge after that win against Rude, somebody he hasn't even come close to, and now he's up against Zverev, and with Zverev's power, I just thought he could blow Norrie away.
He might. It's not a confident pick. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not like you. I'm not looking at this match and thinking, I really want to have a bet in this. It's more of a kind of an idea, a theory. That's all.
Exactly. So Zverev, Norrie, difference of opinion from the panel here. Move on to the next match, the night game, 3 a.m. Eastern time on Monday morning. It's Carlos Alcaraz, the number 2 seed, up against Kecmanovic. Now, Kecmanovic is a player that I have faded on numerous occasions. I can never really
You're not
call
a fan,
him.
Are you?
I can never call him right. Never call him right. But they've met once before, actually, in Miami in 2022. And I would guess that the conditions in Miami might be similar to what they're playing in here. And that was a real long game where Alcaraz come through a tough one. He lost the first set in a tie-break. He won the second set 6-3, and then only eventually won in a tie-break in the quarterfinal here. So Kecmanovic...
It was quite slow then in Miami, wasn't it? Because it was the 2022 when it was not as quick as it was in 2023. So it was a little bit slower. So you would have thought that would favour Alcaraz, but it was a struggle. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Exactly. So this might be a little bit trickier than the odds suggest. Minus 2,500 for Alcaraz. Kecmanovic is 1,200. The spread here is a massive 8.5. Alcaraz is plus 102. Kecmanovic is minus 132. And the total is ridiculously low for me, 30.5. The last time they met, there was, 35 games in a best of 3 sets match. And now over best of 5 is 30.5, and you get minus 110 on the over. So there seems to be a huge sort of support here for Alcaraz, and Bet Rivers are virtually saying that it's a pretty much of a certainty he books his place in the quarterfinals. I'm not so sure if that is the right price.
No, I think it's very, very short based on what we've seen from Alcaraz. You could argue going all the way back to Wimbledon last year. After that, not great. Well, not by those standards anyway. Let's say that. So Alcaraz in his last 15 main level completed matches, set 1 has gone over 9.5 games 11 times out of 15. So that's 73% of the time he's gone over 9.5 games, at least 10 games or more in the opening set. 73% in terms of odds is about 1.37 minus 270. And Bet Rivers are giving us a shade of plus money on that outcome over 9.5 games in set 1. That's the first thing that jumps off the page to me. I'll come on to the reason in a second. Over 30.5 games, Alcaraz in hard court slams, 55% of his matches have gone over 30.5 games. So he's got no history of covering that line in hard court majors. The head-to-head, I don't think it's a perfect head-to-head for Alcaraz. Kecmanovic does have that very flat hitting style, of both wings that can be effective. It can rush Alcaraz on hard courts. And that match in Miami, Kecmanovic actually won 13% more second serve points than Alcaraz did. He won a very, very big 65% off his second ball, Kecmanovic, compared to 52% for Alcaraz. And he held serve 89% of the time that day. Alcaraz 94% of the time. So it all flows to me in the way of overs. Whether you take the over total games, whether you take the set 1 overs, that's kind of a personal choice, really. I've gone for the slightly bigger price, as you can probably imagine, which is the over 9.5 games in set 1 plus 102. That was a bit Rivers when I looked earlier on.
Yep, plus 102 is still there. Alcaraz, Kecmanovic over 9.5 games in set 1 May bring into the over 30.5 as well.
Yeah,
It's
a lot of
in
people
the
would prefer
total.
that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one there for sure. But there's lots of angles on the games, and this one it could be quite an interesting in running bet. You know what I mean? And the way that they're betting, it's like there could
I think
be some twists and turns in this one. I don't think it's going to be as easy as you think.
no, I think they're pricing Alcaraz on what he's capable of, on at his best, rather than what he's produced. I know he was a lot better against Shang in the last match, but Shang was, very much, very below par physically. Obviously retired after a couple of sets. I don't think that's a great barometer of where he's at. He did that tough four, didn't he, against Sonego? And if Sonego can go way, way, way over 30, I'm pretty sure Kecmanovic can. Gasquet wasn't a million miles away from covering 3.5, and he basically gave up after the first set. I'm not saying Kecmanovic won't do that, by the way. He is a bit moody. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think that's a low line on the total games in this match.
Remember, you can watch live and bet live with Bet Rivers. You place a bet on the Bet Rivers website, and you'll be able to live stream the match that you place the wager on as well. So that's an incentive to do that. And Bet Rivers also have an in-play special. Bet Rivers offering a live profit boost every day of the Australian Open. So it's the last week you got the chance to get this. When you place a wager of at least $25 during a match, you'll receive a 20% profit boost. Limit one per day, every day of the tournament. See the Bet Rivers website for full details on the Australian Open bet and get. So there is a profit boost there, and you've only run out of time before you place that. So this could be an in-running play. Get that profit boost as well. We spoke about him at the top of the show, Borges. No one expected him to be in the quarterfinals, but he's here. And
he's not in the quarterfinals yet.
Sorry,
I hope he doesn't get there.
Sorry, okay, get ahead of myself there. Last 16. Nobody would expect him to be there, the Portuguese star. And he's up against Daniil Medvedev, our pick for the tournament. Now, sure, at the start of the tournament, if you turned around and said Daniil Medvedev was playing Borges to get into the quarterfinals, you'd be well, I wouldn't say you'd be excited, because I don't really see you very excited, but you'd be quite happy with that.
I sometimes get excited.
Well, you're about the Pointer sisters don't get as more excited as you. They get very excited compared to you. But Medvedev is minus 2,000. Borges is plus 1150. The spread here is 7.5. Borges receiving 7.5 plus 123, minus 170, 157 for Medvedev. 30.5, like Alcaraz, the total games here. Minus 110 for over, minus 115 for under. 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Our man should breeze through the quarterfinal here, shouldn't he?
I think I'll cry if he doesn't. I mean, I really do. I mean, as you said, if you'd have said to me, Medvedev's come through a couple of tough ones, and he's got Borges to reach the fourth round, and some of the other higher seeds are out, aren't they, of this section? I'd be very happy with that. But obviously, the caveat is that he played a ridiculously long 5-setter. He talked about that, didn't he, Medvedev? He said something like he used to do that all the time. He said he'd play a match, and then he'd go out at night and not bother going to bed, and then train the next day. And he said it wasn't really that tiring for him. So I don't know what's going on there. I've never tried that, but he seems to have this kind of almost limitless energy, doesn't he? He didn't look particularly bothered, did he, against Felix? Didn't look like he played until 4 o'clock in the morning and gone to bed at 7. So he seems to have some sort of powers of recovery. But Borges, yeah, I mean, just a very, very big surprise. And I can show you with the numbers why it's a big surprise. This Australian Open, his service points won and return points won total is 107. That's on an outdoor hard court, obviously. If you look what he did in his career prior to this tournament, he was 5 wins and 12 losses, and a service points won and return points won total of 94, which is, pretty bad by this sort of standard anyway. That's a massive swing. What's that? 13 points better in the 3 matches that he's played this week than his career as a whole on this surface. He was always a player that you would think he can really be rushed. I mean, I don't know whether Medvedev doesn't really have that out-and-out power to sort of rush him, like some of the bigger hitters, the guys with a huge serve, huge forehand. They're a nightmare matchup for Borges. But, he's beating Grigor Dimitrov, which I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that Dimitrov flopped. He often does, doesn't he? I said in the outright show that I'd be stunned if Grigor Dimitrov won this tournament. But I still didn't expect him to lose to Borges. Borges has come in. He's beat Martiro, who's got some pretty heavy weapons. Beat Davidovich Fokina in straight sets. I mean, I wouldn't have picked that in a million years. And Dimitrov, I didn't fancy him to beat either. So he's dropped 1 set against those guys. Held serve 93% of the time, winning 78% of first serve points. And this is Nuno Borges. This isn't, Kyrgios or, Raonic or something. It's remarkable. If this continues, it's one of the biggest turnarounds I can think of. But the key battle here will be the fact that Medvedev has such a great return game. He's won 43% of his return points so far this Australian Open. He hasn't been serving that well, Medvedev, but he's been returning as well as, if not better, as he normally does. So the battle is going to be, can Borges carry on those big serving numbers against an elite returner like Medvedev? Obviously, Borges is going to be nervous as well. I don't know whether you saw at the end of that Dimitrov match, he collapsed on the court like he'd won the title. Like they do when they win the title, and they collapse and they're just kind of, they're all so ecstatic. And that was just to win a round 3. So I should imagine this is the first time he's played on Rod Laver. Whether he's played on it in previous years, I don't know. I doubt it. But it's certainly his first time this tournament. So I can't see Medvedev losing this. I mean, I've taken a look at the over games line. Medvedev at hard court slams, over 30.5 games, 43% of the time. Under 30.5 games, 57% of the time. So Medvedev has generally gone about his business against these lower ranked players quite efficiently, or very efficiently. So my lean would be the unders, but if I backed it, Medvedev would end up winning it at about 4 o'clock in the morning, like final set tiebreak or something. But that stats do suggest that he should get this done in under 30.5 games, hopefully.
Yeah, -115 with Bet Rivers, under 30.5 games. 37 markets available. Borges is only the second Portuguese player to reach the round 16 in the men's singles Grand Slam. So that's probably why he collapsed to the floor. And hopefully that Medvedev will be progressing through for our future pick to win the tournament. The next match, Hubert Hurkacz, our most successful better in 2023. If you player that you bet, you followed Hubert Hurkacz, won us more money than any other player, and he's carried that on into 2024. We've bet 2 matches in Hurkacz. We've got 100% record with him.
My favourite player.
He's definitely becoming our favourite player. I think we should have a Hubert Hurkacz fan club when we go away. T-shirts on stuff.
You can get the T-shirts.
I'll get the T-shirts. Don't worry about that. And we get with it. I get with the polls. It'd be quite good. I like to see you pole dancing, Sean. That'd be quite interesting.
Nobody needs to see that, do they?
Well, not when I say pole dancing. I don't mean that kind of pole dancing. I mean like going up with the poles dancing. Anyway,
if he wins a bet for us, I'm more than happy to do that.
You're more than happy to do some pole dancing for us.
If he wins a decent sized bet for us, and we happen to be in a crowd with a bunch of Polish people that are supporting him, yeah, why not?
The chances of that are very slim.
But anyway, put that caveat in.
Hubert Hurkacz -315 to win this. Arthur Cazaux plus 240. There has been money for Cazaux over the last couple of hours. So the money's coming from him. I'm quite surprised by that. The spread here is 4.5. Again, money for Cazaux. He's a heavy favourite now, -120 from -113. Hurkacz is -107, and the total here is 24.5. And the over has been bet. It was -118. It's now -124 with Bet Rivers. So there is some support for this Frenchman, Cazaux. And you spotted him, Sean, a few months ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Regular viewers of the show will recall they were probably cursing me at the time that I tipped him to win Metz on indoor hard in France, about 40-50 to 1, I think he was. Certainly a very big price each way, as recently as November. So, I'm aware of his talent. It was unfortunate that match he played Pierre Hubert, who hadn't played a main level match for a very, very long time, and he led in the first set tiebreak. I think he was 4-1 or 5-1 up in the first set tiebreak. Cazaux ended up losing the tiebreak, and it kind of destroyed him mentally. Ended up losing that match. I think Hubert ended up making the semi-finals. So I was quite annoyed about that at the time, because Cazaux I thought had a decent chance to go deep, but he's showing his talent to a wider audience here, isn't he? This 2024 Australian Open so far, his service points won and return points won total 113. And he's played some very decent players, hasn't he? Greek Spore and Holger Rune. He's not had a lucky draw. He's had a tough draw. And he's held serve 95% of the time, which is incredible, really, when you consider who he's played. If we compare that to what Hurkacz has done this Australian Open, it does compare favourably. Hurkacz's total is 111, a couple of points behind, and he's held serve 93% of the time. Hurkacz, again, a couple of points down on what Cazaux has done. In terms of first serve win percentage, Cazaux 84% of his first serve points won. Hurkacz, 83%. So these are two guys that are serving incredibly well. It's a day match, this one, on the John Cain Arena.
Mm.
A lot of the players are saying that Rod Laver is considerably slower than the outside courts. So a day match, quick conditions. A first meeting. I can't imagine Hurkacz has spent much of his life watching Arthur Cazaux matches. I'd be surprised if he has. So I'm not surprised the overs has been bet. I mean, I think it's a bit of a high line for me. What's it, about 39.5 now, the line?
39.5 minus 124.
Yeah,
so around about 1.8 on a decimal.
You feel like if Cazaux goes a set and a breakdown, his head might drop a little bit potentially. That would be what would worry me about the over total games. But the set one overs is perhaps better value. I'm not sure what odds it is now, but when I looked earlier, it was plus 160 with Bet Rivers over 10.5 games in set one. That's the bet that I'm going to take on here. I think with two guys serving great, they don't know each other particularly well, won't be dialed in on the returns. I think that's potentially the way to go in this one.
Step one is still plus 160 over 10.5, which is surprising when you consider that everything else is moving in that direction. The set one still stays solid at plus 160. A tie-break in set one is available at plus 235. So that won't put me off either. I'd like to play that as well. Cazaux was 8-0 this year, won a challenger event before, and he's beaten some big names at 21-year-old, and he absolutely
got a big game, yeah.
Blew Greek sport away. Big talent here.
Sport, potentially a little bit tired. You can sort of see he played a lot of tennis in the previous days, but he beat Rune fair and square, and he beat him pretty comfortably, didn't he? So, this kid can play.
So 11 p.m. Eastern time, the 21-year Cazaux against Hurkacz. We're going to go over 10.5 games in the total in set one, which is plus 160, wasn't it? Plus 160.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our wrap up of the fourth round matches tonight. Sean, I know it's a busy night of American football as well across stateside. So if you get an interval between the NFL, you might want to have a look, switch over and watch some tennis. And remember, you've got that watch live and bet live offer with Bet Rivers. So what are your official picks for the fourth round, Sean?
The bet that we just talked about there, which
Cazaux,
was, let me scroll back up to it.
Cazaux.
Yeah, set one over 10. Plus 160.
Yep.
And the second one's very similar bet, actually, over 9.5 games in set one, plus 102 at Bet Rivers in the match between Kecmanovic and Alcaraz.
So there are two picks, both plus money picks, nice plus money picks, and we expect the first sets in both matches to be over. We're moving on just very quickly. We've got quarterfinals. The lines have just come out. We're recording this on Sunday afternoon, UK. Rublev has just beaten Diminuar in 5 sets to get his bookie's place in the quarterfinal against Sinner. We've got the lines just come live from Bet Rivers. We have Novak Djokovic. These are Tuesday morning, these quarterfinals. Novak Djokovic is up against Taylor Fritz, the number 1 seed and number 12 seed. Djokovic has had an overwhelming record, 8-0 against Taylor Fritz. He's a minus 910 favourite to win it. Fritz is plus $6. The spread has been released at 6.5 and the total's at 35.5. Sean, any first reaction on those prices?
I think this is an incredibly difficult matchup for Taylor Fritz, isn't it? As the 8-0 would suggest, but very few of them have been close, really. There's one that was 7-6, 7-6 in Turin, I think, a few years ago. But the last two, 6-love, 6-4, 6-1, 6-4, 6-4. Prior to that, 6-4, 6-3. And you can see why with the stats, it's overwhelmingly in favour of Novak Djokovic. The service points won and return points won totals 111 to 89 in favour of Novak Djokovic. Fritz has only held his serve. We know Fritz is a biggish server. He's only held serve 65% of the time against Novak Djokovic. So his serve, which is his main weapon, hasn't really troubled Djokovic much at all, if we're being honest. We don't know the scheduling of this yet. Maybe because it's been played on Tuesday. Maybe if it's a day match. I wouldn't have thought it would be, though.
No.
I can't imagine it would be. If it is, for whatever reason, that would perhaps be Fritz's only chance, just to come out there and just absolutely throw everything at Novak Djokovic in the first set and then maybe get him involved in a longer match. But you're clutching at straws, really, aren't you, if you're a Taylor Fritz backer? Adrian Mannarino said that the Ash, that's the wrong tournament, Laver court was extremely slow, really, really slow, he said, compared to the other courts. Can't imagine that will favour Taylor Fritz either. I can't see anything else other than what's the handicap mark on Djokovic? -6, did you say? -6.5.
-114, Djokovic -112,
Yeah,
Fritz.
I'd be tempted with that really. If I was having a bet in that, I'd perhaps go on Djokovic on the handicap, but I can't make a case for Fritz really.
I think it's very hard to have a look at these matches without seeing that weather forecast because the warmer it is and the quicker it is, it will help Fritz. So we have to wait to see the scheduling there before we have a bet. But I'm sure across
If
our
it's a night match, yeah, I would definitely go the handicap on Djokovic. I can't see Fritz winning enough games.
On our socials at becausewewin on Twitter and Instagram, we'll be posting anything up we like on that when we see the scheduling a little bit more. The final match, obviously, the other quarterfinals between the number 4 seed Jannik Sinner and number 5 seed Andrey Rublev. Sinner leads 4-2 in the head-to-head, but the two matches that Rublev did win, Sinner retired. And most recent matches, Sinner's won extremely well. I've been at both tournaments and I've watched him play. And I've mentioned this to you many times. When he beat him in Miami, he beat him 6-2, 6-4. It was the best performance I've seen from a tennis player for years. It was faultless, absolutely faultless. And then he got a 7-5, 7-6 win against him in Vienna, another tournament I was at. So I'm thinking about getting, because I'm on at 16-1, I'm thinking about flying over. I'm going to have a word with the Bet Rivers bosses. Any chance I could get on the plane overnight, be there for Tuesday to cheer on Jannik Sinner because I'm on him at 16-1. So I'm obviously a good luck charm for him. I don't think it's going to go down
You're prepared to go 24 hours. So you can just watch it here, can't you? What do you need to go over there for?
I'm a good luck charm for Jannik Sinner.
Oh, you mean you physically got to be in the stadium?
When I've been there and against Rublev twice, he's performed some of the best tennis you've ever seen. He knows I'm there
anyway, wouldn't he? I'm not sure you can credit yourself with this.
I do. I think I can. I think he knows. It's Seeley there. Is that crazy?
I thought Rublev was your mate. Haven't you got a selfie with Rublev or something?
Yeah, I've got selfies with all of them, mate. They've got selfies with me, not.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry,
them. You got to get that
around.
Right. No, Rublev's my mate as well. But on this occasion, I'm like Don. I always say the reference of Don King when you walk into the ring. Don King used to wave the flags and walk into the ring, and then suddenly, like Mike Tyson would be knocked down, he'd be walking out. Douglas, well, hey, Mike Tyson,
that's
my man.
That's Don King for you.
Don King.
Is he still with us, Don King?
I think he's still around, Don King. I'm going to Google it now.
He must
when
be
you
really.
When you give me your picks on this one, Sinner -335, Rublev +250. The spread here was 5.5, +106 Sinner, and 38.5 the total.
I feel like I've only just finished watching Rublev. That's probably because I have. This his match against Alex de Minaur only finished what, an hour and a half ago, something like that. If you were watching that match, we didn't see the match Rublev against de Minaur. The final set, although Rublev won it pretty convincingly in terms of the scoreline, you felt like he was only a break of serve away from crumbling Rublev because he couldn't really move much at the end of that match. His cramps had really got him. If de Minaur had kept him out there for another 10, 15 minutes, we could have had a monumental turnaround because he looked like he was about to go, Rublev. He did really well to finish it as quickly as he did, actually, because I think he probably realised that and he put a bit more into it to try and get it done. I feel like he was really on the edge, but, and Sinner was sitting there, wasn't he, with his feet up, watching that match.
And dropped the set.
Hasn't dropped a set. I still don't think he's playing that great, to be honest. I don't think he's playing as well. Certainly isn't playing as well as he was when he beat Rublev so comfortably in Miami. But, as you said, that was peak tennis, wasn't it? He's not always going to play like that. He'll be delighted. I don't think he's played that great, and he's still through without dropping a set. So, I can't criticize him too much. The head-to-head has been massively overwhelming in favor of Sinner. As you said, service points won and return points won totals 107 to 93. So not quite as dominant as Fritz against Djokovic, but still very, very handy. And Sinner's, you can see how he's done it. He's feasted on that weak second serve of Rublev. He's won 61% of Rublev's second serve points. So whenever Rublev's on his second ball, far more often than not, he's not going to win the points. It's going to go the way of Jannik Sinner. Sinner's held serve 83% of the time against Rublev. Rublev's only held 68% of the time against Sinner. The reality is Sinner's a better player. He's a more complete tennis player than Rublev is. We haven't seen the schedule. If this is a day match, maybe there's a question mark over Sinner in terms of physicality, but he should have a lot left in the tank. He's barely done much, has he, to get to this stage. You feel like the heat is perhaps the only way that Sinner could maybe have a chink in his arm. Right? Otherwise, I can't see Rublev winning.
I think Sinner batters him. absolutely batters him. I think he masterclass. I think there's nothing that Rublev can do to beat him. And I think 5.5, I'm going to bet Sinner minus 5.5 at plus 106. And the only thing I'm worried about is a retirement from Rublev. That would be my only concern on that market. I think
I don't think Rublev will retire. I don't think so.
I mean, he's tried twice against him when he's been battered.
Not in a slam. Actually, he has it. He did the French Open, didn't he?
Yeah, I
think he was
can't see any way Sinner.
Well, that was Sinner that retired, wasn't it? Not Rublev. I can't see Rublev retiring. He doesn't tend to retire. In fact, the last match that Rublev, do you know when the last time Rublev retired was?
Oh, no idea.
2013. When he retired, let's have a look what ranking he was then. He wasn't even ranked. This was 11 years ago against someone I've never heard of called Stefan Seifert.
Oh, you know Stefan Seifert?
No, I don't.
Plague, left hand.
This was a futures in Belarus.
The Belarusian Stefan Seifert is brilliant.
Well, he's German, actually.
But his mother was better.
That's the only time Rublev has ever retired. He ain't going to retire.
Oh, okay. The only time that Rublev has won these two matches when Sinner's retired. I got that a little bit wrong. I was getting a bit carried away, but I think the matches there, I do believe that Sinner wins easy. I'm looking at it through Italian colours.
He's got everything going for him, hasn't he?
I think he wins.
You know, Rublev was out. How long was he out there for? Let's have a look.
4 hours or so.
Actually, I haven't got the time of that match, but it was pretty long, and even if it wasn't insanely long, it was still more than long enough for Rublev's conditioning to go. He really was hobbling a bit towards the end of that match, so great chance for Sinner, you would have to say.
So there you have it. That is our roundup of tonight's fourth round matches and Tuesday's quarterfinals. We know 2 of them already. Myself and Sean will be back on Tuesday. We look ahead to more action in the Australian Open, and hopefully we're cashing some more tickets along the way. Remember to follow us at our handles on social media at becausewewin on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to the Betting Weekly Studios on YouTube, and huge amount of subscribers on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for everyone who's subscribed now. Really appreciate your subscription, and you get alerted to every time anything drops. The views are picking up all the time. Any questions you have, you can just send them across there. We're happy to answer any questions. You can also go to our podcast, subscribe to our podcast on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, wherever you get your podcast from. Remember, there's a bet and get offer as well with Bet Rivers in play on the tennis, and also you can bet live and watch live on the YouTube with you on the website. If you place a wager, you can live stream the match of your choice. Finally, this afternoon, I'm not quite sure this will drop in time, but hopefully it does, at 11:25 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday, which is 4:25 in the UK. Myself and Steve Vish will be doing a reaction show. We're looking at all the action on the day and looking ahead to stuff on the Premier League, giving some updates on the markets, on the win the Premier League, the relegation battle. We'll also be talking women's tennis on there as well. If you want to follow the women's tennis action, we've gone there. We'll have a little bit of chat. Hopefully you can join in. Again, any questions you have, we'll answer them on that show, which is dropping live on the YouTube channel 11:25 on Sunday, 4:25. That's Eastern time, 4:25 in the UK. Sean, get to basketball. Come on, Rayleigh.
Give me 20 minutes, I'll be off.
They're going to be, it's a practice tonight, but when there's a competitive game, they're going to win it. Lagan, remember this name, NBA. Get the draft. Lagan Calvert. Lagan Calvert. All right, mate. Take care. Enjoy your day. Have a good day. Cash some tickets and enjoy the rest of your weekend. All the best.